Hello and welcome to the Zwift SBS podcast. During the Tour de France, for some fun after a long day watching the pros, I like to jump on Zwift. Matthew van der Poel, Anna van der Breggen and Geraint Thomas all have a training program that highlights their strengths, and each of the workouts is about 40 minutes. The good thing is you can do their fun is fast training program as a beginner or experienced rider. It's all based on your power output. To train like the best in the world, it's easy to get started. All you need is a bike, trainer and the Zwift app. Visit Zwift.com and hopefully I'll see you on there soon. Ride on.
Bonjour, and welcome to the Zwift Cycling Central podcast. Before we start, let me remind you that you can download, stream or subscribe to this podcast on our website, sbs.com.au/TDF, for logo rides with our friends at Zwift. Joining me, it's of course Dave McKenzie. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. I'm staring into space. I'm like, we're here. We're not quite, but we're here.
It's been a journey.
We've made it over the Alps, the Pyrenees. Ventoux was tough. The TT was brutal, I've got to say. And now we can enjoy Paris.
If only we were here. If only we were there. Anyway, let's talk about this last stage. But also today, I'd love to wrap up the Tour de France. I don't think we will have a podcast tomorrow, just because we are then in transit and then again in isolation on the other side. So let's do the wrap-up.
We're jumping on a COVID plane back to Melbourne.
Don't laugh.
I know.
So this is the wrap-up of the Tour de France. It's podcast number 23 at this Tour de France. It's been brutal.
And I will say it at the end as well, but still one more to go, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
So if you weren't sick of me, you will be.
But let's focus on the stage last night before we sort of wrap up the whole 3 weeks of dramas and tears and funs we had on this Tour de France. Time trial yesterday, we sort of knew the favorites, but Wout van Aert was definitely amongst those favorites, and he delivered a fantastic time trial yesterday.
Yes, he certainly did. He looked, I mean, it's easy to say it now after the fact that we know he's won, of course, but as he was rolling up and walking up to his start time, he looked switched. He totally looked switched. Look, you could say the same about Stefan Kung, but Kung was he was beaten fairly, in the end by a decent margin by Wout van Aert. He is a special individual. We know that. We know he's a special rider. We know he is super versatile, and it begs the question: can he win the Tour de France one day?
So actually, I'll revert that with another question. How can he win the Tour de France? What does he need to change for him to become the ultimate leader of a squad? Allegedly Jumbo-Visma, but we can't make the decision for them. But what would Wout van Aert need to become a real sensible threat for the Maillot Jaune, for the Tour de France?
Well, he doesn't really need to. It's quite funny because in some ways he needs to uncomplicate his season.
So he needs to do less.
Yeah. And when I say uncomplicated, it's not complicated to him because he's loving what he's doing. He's loving the fact that he still gets to do cyclocross. He does the classics, he does this, he does that, because he's so versatile. He needs to actually give up on some of his other goals in cycling and then put it all towards the Tour. Not yet. I think 1 or 2 years. But I truly believe he can win the Tour. He could win the Tour de France. He'd need to just strip down a little bit of weight, which would come naturally if he did focus on trying to win a Grand Tour. Because I don't know exactly his weight, but I know he's not a lightweight, so he'd need to strip a little bit of weight. He's pretty tall, obviously, and his time trialing is brilliant. The signal, and you mentioned that yesterday, the signal to the team. Him winning the time trial yesterday. It was a flat time trial, but it was a very fast time trial on the last day before Paris. That is the signal a team like Jumbo-Visma will take on, saying, mate, you can actually win this. Yeah.
Because if you're that good after 3 weeks, imagine if we would have been a little bit more strategic in your whole season.
Yeah, you build up. Yeah, I mean it's easy for us to do, or anyone to dissect it, and even the team to say that to him. It's mentally a massive commitment, psychologically and mentally. And, the classic one about that, and completely different different athlete. Brad Wiggins is a classic. I mean, he did a few years at trying to win the Tour, and then that last couple of years, and of course the year that he won it, I think he was, not exactly quoting him, but he was, along the lines of, you've got to live like a monk. If you want to win the Tour, you have to live like a monk. You have to, you can't drink alcohol. You can't do this. You can't do that. You got to watch your weight every day. Your year, 365 days of your year, is itemised out in preparation to win the Tour. So it's such a big thing to put yourself into, to commit to, and maybe Wout van Aert doesn't want to do that.
Oh, that was my next question. Do you think he wants this?
Well, I don't know. He might not. It might not be on his radar yet, or maybe it is long term. Who knows? And I know we're sort of spending a bit of time talking about this when really we should just celebrate him winning the stage and and his talents, which we are. But it does beg the question. He can time trial on his best climbing days. He climbs with the best.
Well, he's won the stage where Ventoux was figured twice.
Yep. It was from a breakaway, granted, but the guys that he beat in the breakaway, one of them went on to win a stage.
Yeah.
Balka Mollema. He's won sprint stages last year. So the guy can do everything. He literally can do everything. He can actually do a bit more than Pogacar, which is mind-boggling. Pogacar's not as fast as him.
And
so,
you know what as well? At the minute, and for the last couple of years, we only had a taster of what cycling can be. Think about this. We had Bernal, Pogacar, Van Aert, Van der Poel, Vingegaard today.
Yeah.
There's so many little pockets of riders.
There's more coming too.
But there's more coming.
There's more coming that we don't know about yet.
Well, you have Theo Gengenhardt. He's won the Giro.
Yeah.
He's not, Mincemeat. He's a good rider. So, but we haven't had all these riders competing for one goal, the Tour de France. And when this happens, this would be a must-watch spectacle on the road.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's we are witnessing possibly one of the best eras that cycling has seen for a long, long time. Yes, you had the 80s and before that the Merckx era, but there was individuals that were so dominant.
You always had one or two people dominating. Yeah. At this stage, there's a hat.
There's multiples.
And there's like 6-7 names in the hat. Imagine that level of battle on the top 10 in the Tour de France.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It's special. It's pretty special. It is mind-boggling in some ways.
One of the surprises yesterday was Vingegaard. Yeah. I think we always knew he could time trial, but time trialing this good to consolidate his place on the second step of the podium.
Yeah, I mean, he was third, I think, in stage 5 TT. So then that woke us up to his time trialing skills. So it wasn't a complete surprise for me, just purely based on the stage 5 result. But at the end of 3 weeks, at the fact that he was a domestique at the start of the race, this kid, he's a lookalike of Macaulay Culkin.
Yes,
we've decided.
On the bike yesterday, on the ramp,
it's hilarious.
He looked like he was 12.
I know,
like the helmet was too big for him.
Yeah, he's pretty special too, isn't he? And I think Jumbo-Visma, they probably knew what they had in him, but even once their leader Roglic crashed out, I'm not sure they even envisaged that he would go this well. He's good. And
Tomo made a good point yesterday. He's Danish. Next year, the Tour de France starts in Copenhagen.
Yeah,
he will be the star of the moment if he's still in form, if he's still in shape.
Yeah,
coming into it, he could be one of the local stars that people will come out and watch.
He could be. I hate to be a party pooper. They might send him to the Giro next year. Like, it's a big possibility because he's showing how good he is. And Roglic might be like, I've got unfinished business. I just want to go back to the Tour again. So he could end up doing the Giro or something like that. I mean, it would be awesome to see him at the Tour, and I'd imagine he would put his hand up for the Tour.
Yeah.
You know what? It could flip the other way. They could send Roglic to the Giro.
Yeah, to say, hey, you've won the Vuelta enough.
Yeah.
Now go to the Giro and try to win this one.
Yeah. So, no, it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting.
Before we start talking about Ben O'Connor, we just complete the podium. So, of course, Pogacar has won this Tour de France, unless there's a problem tonight, which I don't think has ever happened since.
He'd need to break 3 bikes.
Yeah.
Possibly both collarbones, so he couldn't hold onto the bars.
Yeah, exactly.
Because even one, he'd still be able to make it.
But honestly, look, Pogacar, we can actually say he's probably won the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Carapaz will be third.
Yeah.
What do you make of that podium? It probably was one hard to pick, of course, because of Vingegaard. But what do you make of the performance of Pogacar himself, and then after that, Carapaz?
Well, the Pog, I've run out of words, descriptive words to sing his praises, but he's the best. He is the best, and it's fair to say he's head and shoulders above. However, the 2 Pyrenean stages, he could not drop Carapaz and Vingegaard. Yes, he won both those stages, but he could not drop them on 2 pretty tough days. So I think from a sporting perspective, yes, he won convincingly, but in this third week, he could not ride away from them. So I think that proves he's human. And of course, the final TT, he didn't win. He lost a bit of time. So he's human, this kid. Mm-hmm. He's a superstar, but he's human. And that, I think that was good to see. So he's super. And you know what? Carapaz, we've got to give him credit because you compare him to Vingegaard in the TT and he lost a bunch of time. But at the end of the day, he's the third best rider in what has been a really tough edition of the Tour. So I think Ineos, and we're critical of Ineos, or I guess our first reaction, and mine is as well, a €50 million budget team, they want to win every time. Well, they want to win the biggest race of the year at least.
And it's twice in a row they not win.
Yeah.
They don't win that biggest race.
But they have won the Giro this year. So they've won one of the 3 Grand Tours and arguably the second most.
They won the Giro last year as well.
Yeah. So I think they deserve some credit.
Yeah.
I don't think we can criticise them too much. They did come with 4 potential guys to ride GC, but we all knew that was never going to happen. You were never going to have 4 guys riding GC. It was only going to be 1 or 2 at best. So Carapaz has flown the flag for a team that was, sort of decimated by their injuries throughout. He stepped up big time, and he's ridden well.
And if we look at the Aussies, Ben O'Connor, of course,
woohoo!
Fantastic performance.
Yeah.
But I'm not mincing my words. Fantastic performance because he's now the 3rd biggest performer at the Tour de France behind Cadel Evans, Richie Porte. And
as an Australian.
As an Australian, him, and then in front of Phil Anderson. And you rightly said yesterday, he's the best debut Australian ever.
Well, actually, if I did say it, I stole it off Tomo.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Tomo did say that to me. That's a really impressive stat. Best debut Australian finisher ever in the 100. I keep forgetting. What are we at?
It's 108.
108. Yeah. So it's massive. No, it's and he's a good kid, isn't he?
Yeah.
He seems like just a good kid. He will come back to WA with a hero's welcome, I think, and he won't expect it and he won't want it necessarily because he seems like a really humble guy. But wow, I hope Tour Down Under can happen in back at its
in
World
a meaningful
Tour
way,
status, and he is there purely as a lap of honour in front of us Aussie fans. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Let's listen to Ben O'Connor.
Bit of a whimper later and have all the emotion. I felt really emotional yesterday just thinking about the Tour de France and being able to sit near the front because you've earned it. I thought it was really special, and today was actually super horrible. But I'm super happy that I'm able to hold 4th, and I think it's a new step for me and I guess a new direction as well for the team with an Australian guy and a French team.
That was Ben O'Connor, happy, chirpy, whatever. I like the kid. I really like the kid.
So do I. It's I liked him before he was.
Yeah, I remember you.
Big.
We talked, and I can actually acquiesce on this. You spoke about Ben O'Connor to me before
like
this
a
Tour
year
de
ago.
France.
A year ago. No,
when he was
great.
running out of steam and contract.
Yes.
And AG2R picked him up. You just went. You watch him. You watch him.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's so good. It's such a good story too, isn't it? He probably doesn't realise it yet, but he's giving hope to the 18-year-olds now.
Yeah.
He's still young and his career's just taking off, but he's giving hope to the next generation of. And I'll just give a little shout out to the Detour Pod. I listened to them the other day, and Henk Vogel's an old friend of SBS and an old friend of ours was on there. Hank's a proud WA boy, and Matt Pointer, who follows the sort of local cycling scene, and they were both talking about the next generation of WA kids coming through and how important it is, and along those lines. So it's fantastic, and I'm sure Ben will, he'll give some time to the young juniors that are coming up in WA.
Absolutely. The other Aussies, let's take a second to talk about Simon Clarke. He had a really tough Tour de France with pain, with injuries, crashes, pretty much everything in between. Courageous for him to finish.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Really wrapped for Simon Clarke, and in a different kind of way. I raced against Simon the last couple of years I raced, so I've known him a long time, and he's always been a real trier, a real racer. He was never, I don't know how the right way to put this. He wasn't completely naturally gifted, as in, he went to, I think he rode Team's Pursuit at Junior Worlds and stuff like that, but, he didn't have this incredible natural engine as a sprinter, a time trialist, or a climber, is what I'm saying. But boy, he just has tenacity, and he proved that over this 3-week journey. It's a different Tour de France, this one for Simon Clarke, but super, super impressed.
And he sent you a message.
He did. He sent me a big, long message, sort of wrapping up his tour. Yeah, it was.
So that's
really
on the way to Paris. Listen to it.
G'day, mate. Sorry for the slow reply. I had a few solid transfers the last couple of days, but halfway to Paris now. So thank God. No, it's been a tough tour for me, that's for sure. I crashed stages 1, 2, and 3, with the third one crashing with Heikki and Damar with 4K to go being the worst for me. And that was where I injured my back. I actually didn't know that I'd injured it for another 10 days. So I had some back pain, but I was just, I wasn't sure. I had an X-ray initially and it came up clear, but obviously X-rays aren't all that accurate. It's been a bit of a tour of survival for me. Definitely not how you dream of the Tour de France being, but at the same time, good to be able to get through. Being kind of the road captain of the team, I could still be quite influential despite my injury, and help with the teamwork and make sure that all the boys are doing everything we can each day. So I still, I didn't feel like I was just riding around France for no reason, and it was still good to be a part of the teamwork and the team here. So and then I really just wanted to be active in one stage before the end, and at worst I was gonna have to attack down the Champs-Elysees, but fortunately I managed to get in the break. It was great, and just to get amongst it. And obviously when things started really heating up, my back was didn't want a bar of it, but I did what I could and tried to support Max, and when the attacks started flying, and it's not the way you like to race, but just tried to make the best of a tricky situation. Apart from that, it's been interesting doing the tour for the 6th tour, and the third with my third team, different team doing it. So it's always a bit of a different experience with each different team you do it with, and it's been from that point of view been quite enjoyable doing it with Quebecer, and it's been a great group of people and great staff, and obviously we had a really young team with 4 guys doing their first Tour de France, and a 5th guy only having had done one. So we had a pretty young and team coming in, and it was hard to have too bigger expectations considering, and we just tried to have as bigger impact on the race as possible, and get the best results along the way that we could. Obviously we lost a few guys along the way as well, which is unfortunate, but we'll still got 5 guys left to go down the Champs-Élysées tomorrow. And yeah, we've got a pretty cool thing happening tomorrow, being Mandela Day, and so we have going to be riding in a bunch of orange stuff to support Mandela Day. So looking forward to that, and it should be a good final day in Paris. All right, mate. Speak to you soon.
So that was Simon Clark. It's good that with technology we can do this. We are
it's great.
like almost on the transfer with Simon Clark.
Yeah.
On the way to Paris. Any other, like the other Aussies to mention? We have to mention Richie Porte.
Yeah.
How do you make and how do you value the Tour de France? He's done his job. He's
Yeah,
done
he's
what he
done-
had to do.
He's 100%, and look, 100% coming into it. I think my expectations were higher. Well, you know, part of me was hoping he would end up being the GC contender. He almost was at one point. It was just him and Carapaz, but he'd lost a bit of time, and then he got caught up in some crashes. But look, he played his role. He really did play a super domestique role, and I think when you look more closely at some stages and what Richie did for the team, he played a really important role. And look, he's had a bloody great season so far when you think about it. Mm-hmm. He's won the Criterium du Dauphiné.
Let's not forget he's won the Criterium du Dauphiné.
Yeah. But that's right. It's easy to look at his Tour de France placing and say, oh, he was third last year. So as fans listening, just taking note his whole season to date, he is a real value to Ineos, and they'll be absolutely wrapped with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's now talk about Alaphilippe.
Yeah,
I want us to talk about the man Alaphilippe. On paper, not his best Tour de France. He's had better Tour de France.
He only won a stage and wore the yellow for a day.
Yeah, for a day.
It's actually true.
But he really, really made that race dynamic. He really has enjoyed the whole freedom he got, because the whole team was most of the time looking after Cavendish for the green jersey. So he really enjoyed being that guy that could do anything because it's fun.
Yeah.
Now, I'll revert that question that we had for Wout van Aert. Can Alaphilippe ride GC and hope to win the Tour de France one day, and what should he do?
It's the same thing, sort of. Yes. Short answer, yes, I believe so. Because we saw 2 years ago, 3 days out, he was still leading, and then when Bernal, completely destroyed the field on that climb, but he was there. Yes, he needs to, and I don't think he ever. I think less so than Wout van Aert, because Alaphilippe loves racing his bike and loves racing everything, but he needs to strip his calendar back and just focus on the Tour. But I'm not sure he will, because he loves the Ardennes Classics. He loves, some of the early smaller stage races during the season. And the way he races the Tour every day, he even needs to tone that down and ride conservatively, so he's sort of fresher in the mountain stages and for the time trials. So he could, 100% Alaphilippe could, but gee, do we even as fans want him to do that? Because we'll miss out on Alaphilippe.
I do.
Do you?
Well, we're missing a French winner in this Tour. Since 1985.
And he would be the best French winner.
He would be
at
a
the
megastar.
Moment of all the French. He would be. He's a megastar anyway.
Yeah.
But it would be the perfect story, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's an interesting thought, and I wonder if he's had that sort of in-depth discussion with his coach, with his manager, with the team's management of De Koning, with Lefevre. Yeah,
because that would also mean changing the DNA of the team for the Tour de France.
I'm not sure so much. No, I don't think so much. Yes, I think their roles shift a little bit, but I don't believe they'd have to change their. I like, for example, if he did that role with the team that we see at De Koning this year, I believe that he could still ride for GC with that team. The problem is, yes, this year is an exception because you had 4 or 5 guys waiting with Cavendish.
Yeah.
So you couldn't necessarily do that, but there were still 2 guys, Catania and Dries Devenens, a couple of other guys that could ride in support. But look when Cadel won the race, and I know that's 10 years ago, but not a lot has changed in the tactics of racing the Tour de France. Cadel barely had a climber. He had a sort of a classics team really looking after him. So No, I don't. They'd have to change a little bit, but it wouldn't be a massive change. But yeah, it is an interesting. And I'll just to finish on that, he should have the discussion. I'm not saying he should do it, but he should at least investigate it with all the people in his corner and then make a decision.
If anything, to just brush it away.
And I think it needs to happen obviously a lot sooner than Wout van Aert, because of his age and at the time he spent at the top. He is in the prime of his career, Alaphilippe, that's obvious. So he needs to make the call now.
Yeah. Any other mention before we talk about Cavendish?
Yeah, so to all the Aussies, no, I think they've well done to all you guys. You've been brilliant. How about just a side note, couple of little side notes. Arkea, Samsung, they'll finish with 3 riders: an Englishman, a Frenchman, and a Colombian.
Imagine talking in that team.
And Quintana does not speak English. I'm not sure. I don't think he speaks French.
No, I don't think he does.
He might understand, speak a little bit. I'm presuming he speaks reasonable English. Imagine the team bus. I wonder if they ripped out the other 5 seats so they could have a bit more leg room.
Hey, the guys, we go first class now.
I know.
Extended leg room.
Yeah, I'm sort of disappointed.
Imagine being a roomie. If the 2 of them are roomies anyway.
Yeah.
Would they want their own room?
Oh, hell yes! You totally want your own room when you're on a grand tour. It's so good when you do. So I wonder, but see, ASO, they don't suddenly sort of go, oh, you'll get your own room. Yeah, because they pay for that. It's up to the team to pay the extra. So it'd be interesting if they did get their own room. Yeah,
interesting.
I hope so.
But look, they really tried Arkea. It's probably a year where they really tried to throw something at it. Yeah, it didn't work out. No stage win still. Yeah, and of course they didn't win the polka dot.
Look, Buhani did get an arm extension.
Yes,
I think it was on Vontu. But no. Look, I'm disappointed that they didn't get something out of it. They got close, but no cigar. Yeah. No, look, it's been a pretty awesome tour. Yeah. I think it's lived up to the hype. Yeah. What we didn't like, but it happens every year, were like some really big crashes. Yeah. Probably more than most. They just seem to carry on too as the race went. But all in all, a great tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the race is on tonight for the green jersey. Michael Matthews and, of course, Cavendish. Can Matthews upset Cavendish tonight, do you think?
I don't think so. Cavendish needs to have a brain fade and the team need to really stuff it up, or Matthews and other sprint trains need to sort of box Cavendish in. Mathematically, absolutely, Michael can win. He pretty much needs to win the stage in order to do so. Look, strange things have happened on the Champs-Élysées in previous years. Yes, we've seen the big sprinters win, but sometimes you see a sprinter win that hasn't sort of won at all throughout the race. So it's an interesting finish. Actually, and you know what else I've heard? They've moved the finish line further down the boulevard. Okay. So they come around that right-hand.
So it's a longer sprint.
It's a longer sprint. Yes, I've heard that. So that will change it up a little bit, just a little bit, in terms of just the timing of the sprinters. De Koenig have got their full roster, and Alaphilippe now will commit. He won't be attacking or anything like that. Mm-hmm. He will jump in that sprint train. So everything is set for Cav to break that magical record. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. It's not done until they cross the line.
Absolutely. That's all to play for. And then, of course, the wonderful vista of the city of Paris as well will be on full display tonight. Thank you, Maka. It's been a blast.
It has. It's been a blast. I will properly now promo the Vuelta. We are doing a live video stream for 21 days. 4 weeks' time. You got 4 weeks off, peeps, and then we will be back. And
no, there's a podcast in between. We have to have a podcast.
Well, we do one in between.
We'll
okay.
We'll have a preview in between.
2 weeks.
In a couple of weeks, once we're both out of our little
out of quarantine,
forced holiday quarantine, which is not a holiday. But yeah, and then we'll have, you're right, live every stage. We'll have a live podcast from the Vuelta, and it's going to be fun. Live on Facebook, video.
Yeah, and live coverage, of course, peeps, on every day on SBS. You know where it is. It is going to be an amazing race because the lineup is looking like the best lineup at the Vuelta possibly ever. Yeah. Just because of injuries, etc., etc. we're going to see a fantastic Volta lineup and a great race. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Micah, for all your work.
Thank you very much.
This was the Zwift Cycling Central podcast. Before we go, let me remind you that you can download, stream, or subscribe to this podcast on our website, sbs.com.au/TDF, or log a ride with our friends at Zwift. Until next time, it's bye for now.
Before we go, a quick word on our sponsor, Zwift. On Zwift, you can explore the world while having fun training at home. Even better, you can do it during the tour as part of the Fun is Fast series. The events include group workouts and group rides, fondos, races, and as we all know, the tour ignites the competitive spirit in some of us. Time trials, Ventop, which is a replica of Mont Ventoux, and Women's Wednesday rides. All you need is a bike, trainer, and the Zwift app. Visit Zwift.com, and hopefully I'll see you on there soon. Ride on.